We open up with Orion after a long night of janitorial duties from the locker, and then he brushes his teeth in the water fountain and says hello to the Mega team. And then they cut to the pirates, and Navi gives his prediction. Enemies from the past perish the thought of two privateers. The pirates minus Orion and Donnie start thinking, well, clearly one of those privateers is Burden, but who would the other one be? And then we cut to the villains, and Vakar is like, okay, don't screw this one up, you privateers. And Lavira gives Burden like keys or whatever and says something like, don't scratch the paint. And then we continue with Orion's morning routine of jogging and then practicing posing to himself because it's like 8 in the morning and everyone's either asleep at work or at school. But suddenly the ghost ship of Captain Davy Jones arrives and it blocks out the sun. And we see Donnie like in the crow's nest of the Red Galleon, looking around, just kind of sunbathing. But then he sees the ghost ship and freaks out. He falls down the crow's nest comically. He tries alerting the pirates. But it's too little too late, because just as he gets down there and tells them, the ghost ship flies over and activates the tractor beam, sucking the Red Galleon into itself. Orion sees this and calls the Quantum Rex Mark II and morphs. But before he could go and save the pirates, another legendary Megazord hops off the ship. The fake legendary Megazord is piloted by Burden, and then he fights Orion for a little bit. And then the pirates hop off the Red Galleon and decide to explore the Flying Dutchman, where they run across Davy Jones, who introduces himself as one of the greatest privateers in the galaxy. The pirates recognize him from that past day where they were fighting with the Mega Team, and him being the second privateer that Navi predicted. And Davy Jones explains all the source of his power is the God Eye, which is a crystal that can resurrect the dead. The pirates question why would he tell them, and Davy Jones is like, oh, well, this is Shanghai. You're going to be part of my crew now. Why do you think I was not being paid for this? And then a giant purple tongue comes out of the skull and eats them, and they fall through a purple portal, and then a giant gray skull in the sky spits them into a pagoda. The pirates are like, where are we? And then Lindsay thinks about, hey, what's with the skull in the sky? What's going on here? And then they're attacked by every single previous foot soldier and Power Rangers. And then everyone morphs and hops in and fights, and there's some unique footage of American exclusive foot soldiers. But then they form into a giant foot soldier, and Captain Marvelous calls it a small fry. It tries attacking them, but all the foot soldiers start infighting over control over the creature, and Bailey thinks it looks like they're dancing. And Donnie's like, oh, they want dancing? Then let's give them the dance of the world. And they turn into Battle Force, which is Power Rangers Battle Force, an international group of Power Rangers made up of heroes from every continent, as was wished to keep in by one of my fans. Anyways, they blow up the foot soldier Chimera, and then he blows up into baseballs, and the pirates end up in a baseball field where they meet Ruth, one of the original generals of the United Alliance of Evil. Lindsay makes fun of him, calling him an ancient baseball. Donnie's like, if you're from the original Evil Alliance, then Marvelous interrupts, and he's like, let's show him the original. And Donnie's like, you have been learning the Rangers. As they turn into Go Ranger! And they play some baseball. And then we cut outside the Flying Dutchman and see the Mega Team fighting some X-Borgs. And then back at the game, Roof misses every time. And we skip over a G-Free Princess reference and he blows up. And then the pirates land in a desert where they're attacked by Diabolico and Batlings from Lightspeed Rescue. The pirates take cover, take their helmets off, and discuss the situation as they realize the skull in the sky's mouth is closing and they might be stuck here forever if they don't leave. Oh, and here's some art from the awesome YouTuber Tom, who's a massive supporter of the series, and I appreciate him. Joe suggests that Marvelous somehow gets up there as the rest of the pirates will stay here and fight Diabolico. And Marvelous is like, no, I'm not leaving you guys. And Joe tells him, you can always use the God Eye to resurrect us. Everyone else nods to Joe's idea, and Marvelous is like, alright, pirates, let's go. All the pirates except Marvelous morph into Lightspeed Rescue and goes to fight Diabolico. And right behind him, Marvelous turns into Ninja Storm Red and flies away on the hang glider, which he then ditches the hang glider and jumps into the mouth when he gets up there. And then the hang glider comically falls and crushes some Batlings. And the skull closes right behind Marvelous. Davy Jones is like, clever, but you're going right back in there as soon as I'm done with you. And then the two fight, during which Marvelous snags the God's Eye, and Davy Jones is like, no, if you use it just once as a human, then it's done forever. And Marvelous is like, whatever. And he wishes his friends back, and the team shows up there, and the God Eye turns to like gray and cracky, and David Jones is like, no, my power, you wasted it. And Marvelous is like, you wasted it only summoning evil creatures. And then everyone remorphs and throws their keys and the Go Ranger keys in the air and charges up a final wave and hits Davy Jones with a final wave, blast, and slash. Of course, the theme song's playing, and when the slash and blast connects, they form the Go Rangers and they blow them up. And then we cut back to Orion versus Burden, but when Burden realizes Davy Jones was blown up, he hops back onto the ghost ship and tries to squash the pirates. Marvelous summons the Red Galleon, and they form the legendary Megazord, and we get the really cool fake legendary versus the real legendary Megazord fight, ending with the real ones hopping off the ship and shooting the red aerocraft, the Mystic Dragon, the Delta Runner, Jungle Fury, Tiger Spirit, and MegaForce Dragon Zord header at Burden, and he falls into the ghost ship and presumably goes down with the ship as the pirates make the legendary Mystic Force Megazord and fly to safety. Then the next day at the high school, Rose is introducing the class, but then she's like, I'm stepping down as teacher because your old one has returned. And for the first time since the beginning of Pirate Armada, Mr. Burley returns to the show and as teacher of the Mega Team. And then he gives a similar, if not the same, speech he gave at the start of the real Super Mega Force. And we see Marvelous standing over a lake, both kind of glad, but also kind of sad that Burden went down with the Flying Dutchman. But we see the fake legendary pink sub in the lake, and we see Burden and Sally on board perfectly fine, and we see like a flashback of like him escaping into the pink sub and it like shooting through the floorboards of the ship just as it was exploding. And Sally's like complaining about the cramped space, but not like verbally, like because Sally can't talk, only make monkey noises. And Burden's like, "Oh, shut up. We'll be fine. We survived the explosion. And besides, we still have this." And he holds up a unique ranger key. And all the ranger keys he still has, he stole from the rangers a while ago. And then we cut to Damaris, who is commanding a bunch of X-Borgs to pick apart the wreckage and scraps of what was the Flying Dutchman ghost ship, as he holds up some top-secret blueprints showing the Colossus project the Emperor himself has commissioned. And with those two cliffhangers, we end Season 1, which leads us into Season 2, and because it's still Neo Saban, we're forced to call it Power Rangers Pirate Super Armada.